Welcome back to another episode of Fact versus History Monster Horror Movie Edition. This episode actually has a group of animals that I am in fact a little bit afraid of. And the movie that we're talking about is one of the scariest cornerstone movies of all monster horror movie, and that is Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. So in this movie, birds all over the world start to attack and murder humans because of global warming and what humans are doing to the world, right? Well, that isn't really a thing that's gonna happen, but that being said, birds are scary, y'all. Like, when I say that there are a couple animals in the world I don't like that don't like me, horses, but birds are one that I'm legitimately a little intimidated by, and not just one specific kind of bird. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the birds that, well, necessarily aren't going to mass swarm and take over the planet like what happened in the movie, but will absolutely, they want to put you on a t-shirt. We'll just leave it at that, all right? So there are a couple that even, Steve Irwin didn't even really want to mess with. Like, the start of that was, like, parrots. So parrots, they've never, killed somebody or anything like that, but they're incredibly smart. They have very strong beaks. They get bored very quickly, and they're a little unpredictable. And so that was an animal that Steve Irwin honestly didn't like to mess with, and birds in general, Steve really didn't like at all. And one of those, probably because it lived in his backyard, probably the most deadly and dangerous bird in the world, and that's the cassowary. So the cassowary is a flightless bird like the ostrich and the emu and penguins, I guess, although they fly through the water. But cassowary is this helmeted blue-faced velociraptor that runs through New Guinea and the parts of northern Australia of the rainforest that can jump incredibly large amounts of feet, are very protective and territorial, will defend their chicks to the death, and can do a lot of damage with a single kick. Ostriches and emus also can do that, but cassowaries, let's be honest, they're like, here's them, there's cassowaries, they're up there. And so while we're on the subject of, burbs of Australia that absolutely will, unalive you if they absolutely can, that's the Australian magpie. So magpies in general around the world all belong to a group of birds called corvids. That's crows, ravens, jays, and magpies. They are all highly intelligent, arguably as or more intelligent than any of the parrots. They remember things, they learn, they mimic, they watch, they use tools, they mourn their dead. They are incredibly intelligent and amazing animals. However, all of those things means that they are incredibly scary animals too. And so this might be the only episode where I'm going to end up actually maybe doing more harm than good, because these guys are absolutely scary. So the Australian magpies not have a reputation, and it is 100% deserved and earned, for them being dive-bombing aerial menaces. So every year during nesting season around Australia, Australian magpies become incredibly defensive and territorial, and they will dive bomb people walking to work. They will attack animals, dogs, cats, dingoes, kangaroos, everything that comes within near their nesting sites. And in addition to that, because they're very smart, they remember individual people. They remember specific routes they continue to take where they will hang out and wait for you to come along. And so because of that, there are several companies in Australia that have now started to manufacture anti-magpie helmets for people to wear while walking, biking, skateboarding on their way to work or school, to hopefully deflect and discourage the dive-bombing menaces that are the magpies. Here in the United States, we also have magpies. They're not as territorial and scary as the Aussie ones, because they're Aussie ones. Yeah. But here they have learned that people are sources of food and entertainment. Crows and ravens have learned to mimic human voices. They will mess with people. They know how to get into things. While filming another video for this series, we watched two ravens get into a Jeep in a park and rifle through people's stuff because they left their sunroof open. And every time they saw a person come up, one would hang out outside as a lookout, and the other one would go into the Jeep and go through things, and they would swap out, and when a person would walk by, they would both come out of the car and hang out, and if they got close to the car, they would fly over, and as soon as they left, they would come back over to the Jeep, and again, look out, and they would swap out. Highly intelligent, scary, scary animals. And honestly, if there was one bird that I am the most afraid of, it might be that one. However, there is another one that is super scary, and that's swans. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Those absolutely majestic, long-necked waterfowl. Yeah, well, those scary. They've actually put someone on the census before. There was an Australian swan that a canoer was going along, and the swan felt threatened. In the panic, the canoe flipped over, and the swan physically kept attacking him until he actually drowned. So, swans, super scary. They're not the only ones that you wouldn't think of. And as well, there are large birds of prey, eagles, hawks that have, there are a lot of African hawks, golden eagles, great horned owls. They have all been known to attack people that have come near their nests, as well as those larger birds of prey like the eagles do have records of attacking small children that have come near and viewing them as prey items, because some of them are large enough to carry away, or even, depending on where they are, in the world, golden eagles will actually grab goats off of cliffs and drop them, so that way they can have this larger prey on them without having to worry to take down something so big. They're physically capable of lifting them up, but not necessarily without great harm in themselves, so they will drop them off a cliff. And so there are stories of large birds of prey attempting to take away small children or toddlers for that purpose, in all honesty. There is one very famous one that we've heard of, because this is actually a viewed and known behavior, and that is the Lamborgh, which is essentially kind of like a Eurasian hawk vulture looking thing that looks really cool. It's very pretty, but kind of scary looking at the same time, where they are known to drop rocks or coconuts onto prey items, or them onto those things to kind of help break them up or kill them, which also includes turtles. They will pick up a turtle or a tortoise and they will drop it from a great height to crack open their shell. And supposedly, this is how the Greek author Aeschylus died, was that an eagle, a Lamborgh, because where they lived, dropped a turtle on his head and unalived him, which is absolutely scary. And again, this is a noted behavior that these birds have that may have actually happened. We don't know. It was hundreds of years ago, but it's a really interesting thing that they do know, in fact, has happened, at least maybe not necessarily on the skull of a dude, right? So this last one comes from a bird that you wouldn't think would ever happen. You see them walking around all of the time at zoos, at parks, at, botanical gardens and things like that. They're these amazing, beautiful birds, but it turns out they have a body count, and that is the peacock. I'm serious. There was a peafowl, and it was a peacock, that killed its owner. For reals. I'm not making this up. When I first heard this story, I had to do a good amount of digging and fact-checking and verifying from like 8 different places to see whether or not this was actually true. And yeah, no, totally. There was a peacock that was, showing off for the ladies or something, and he got startled and disturbed by his owner coming across him from behind, and the peacock attacked him. And peacocks are actually pretty aggressive predators. They are known to attack, kill, and eat snakes, and so that's actually kind of like a 2-for-1 special why they would keep them around. They were beautiful and, signs of providence and royalty and nobility, and it was really cool, and it was like a status symbol, but they would also kind of help keep the grounds clear of snakes because, everyone's afraid of snakes. So, there's that. So, as he startles this peacock who's showing off, the peacock attacks him with their fairly substantial talons, and they just happen to catch him in the right place, and it cut an artery, and he unfortunately bled out before he could reach hospital for treatment. So there you go. Crows, as far as we know, not taking anybody. The rats with wings, with pigeons, hawks, owls, anything like that hasn't done it, but a peacock and a swan have. And that is why birds are absolutely terrifying to me. because birds are just scary feathered reptiles that I can't read and I don't know enough about, and they terrify the ever-loving heck out of me. And if there was an animal out there that scared Steve Irwin, I think that is enough to say that these animals deserve some respect on their names, right? So let's not make fun of the fancy blue peacock sporting around with his butt waving in the air. No, put some respect on that peacock's name, all right, guys? So that's this one, is that, again, while not necessarily like the movie The Birds, they're all taking it out on humans because of, global warming, or they've just decided they've had it with humans. There are some birds out there that are intelligent enough to where if they wanted to, they could do a fair amount to us, but luckily we don't really have to worry about that too much, as well as maybe we need to, put a little bit more respect if we ever want to have some of these ornamental fowl as pets or features on estates, lawns, and even zoos and parks, right? So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Monster Movie Horror Fact versus Fiction. I'll get this straight one of these days, I promise. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll check you next time.